Welcome back, Inebri-art. This is your faithful host, Andy, as always. And today I'm joined by an author. I feel like we've been actively trying. Not that I don't like musicians, I shouldn't say it like that, but we've been on a string of musicians. So I've really been trying to kind of like filter in a bunch of other creative types. And today we are joined by an author of a book called Downeyoshun, and his name is Arthur Young. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much.
So you were saying this is kind of your first go at social media, and I'm assuming this is your first podcast that you've been on.
Yes, yes, it is.
Um, in Downey Ocean's your first book, correct?
Right.
Why? To give our listeners a little bit of background, you were born in Baltimore. You're a Navy veteran during the Vietnam War. And then in the email I got, there's a bunch of like other jobs that you've done. Like, why did you decide now to become an author? Is it something that you've always wanted to do, or like what was the root cause?
Um, I've always told stories to friends and family, and when I retired, I was like, well, what am I going to do with myself? I joined a writers group, and I've been writing since. And a couple of years ago, one of our group had a book published, and I'll give her a shout out. It's called Of White Ashes, and it's by Connie Matsumoto. And it's the outlook of World War II by Nisei that were imprisoned uh, during that period of time. And I think it's a very good book. And
Yeah,
she did, her book was accepted and published and all that. I thought, well, I've got this one here. I'll submit, see what happens. And here I am today.
it's I love that you're saying that you were retired and then you're like, well, I need to do something. My landlady is in her 80s and she's doing great, and I think it's because she is very active. And I just I've dated people and they're like, oh, I can't wait to retire and like sit on the porch and do nothing. I'm like, that sounds terrible. Like, I don't. I'm like, just the idea of doing nothing to me, it sounds like you're done. But it's like I love that kind of, done my time doing what I need to do, and now I'm going to do something that I want to do. I don't want to put words in your mouth,
Exactly.
um, but I love that, and I love that you kind of took it to the next step and kind of started a new adventure. So can you tell us a little bit about what the book is?
Okay, the book, bit historical fiction, family fiction. The story is about a young lady named Sally Osterhoff. Follows her life from age 5 in 1955 to age 30 in 1980. Uh, over that period of years, we get the early civil rights movement, uh, Vietnam War, and early feminism. Uh, Sally is a child genius. When she grows up, she wants to be a mathematician, a carpenter, a teacher, and an Olympic class swimmer. Her mother, on the other hand, has other ideas, and she will physically and emotionally abuse her child to fit those ideas. But between her father trying his best and the family next door, whose daughter takes to her like a sister, and her aunt and uncle down in Ocean City, Maryland, she comes through. She makes all her dreams come true. So it's a happy ending. So
Yeah. Oh, that's
I love
excellent.
a happy ending story.
I can go either way. I like when there is an ending. I feel like there's so many writers and properties now, and maybe it's more just because I'm a bit of a sci-fi fantasy genre fan, but I feel like they try to leave things open ended in case it becomes a movie that you're like, oh, we can make another. I can
Right.
always add to another, and I'm like, just
Hey, I'll do a sequel.
yeah,
Yeah.
just make a good story and leave it at that. Like it's that nothing drives me crazier than someone trying to like tack on a sequel to something that absolutely does not need one. Um, so you said this is somewhat autobiographical fiction kind of. It was
Not autobiographical, but
uh,
uh, just
biographical.
a
Sorry.
biographic
Okay.
of a young girl.
Um, I mean, it's a. I tend to think that people look back and romanticize different areas in the past. Like, it was a pretty tumultuous time with the Vietnam War and protests and early feminism. But do you think people kind of look back at it now as like being a better time? Because I feel like even like with something say like Forrest Gump that really took place in that time, I think it's still kind of like I just feel like they kind of paint too much of a happy picture on some of the things that were going on, and I think people tend to lose how difficult it was.
Right. No, I don't gloss over anything.
Yeah,
There's some heavy parts, but there's lighter parts too. There will be a few N words and things like that in it.
yeah,
Some F bombs as well. But these are part of the times. And we're talking the 50s, 60s, 70s. I really don't look back on those years as you know, how rosy and all it was. It wasn't.
yeah.
It's, Speaking as a Vietnam vet, it was no fun at all.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's the thing is like my father was a veteran of Vietnam, and he didn't like he wasn't even he was very very briefly in Vietnam. He was stationed in Okinawa, but I don't know. I just feel like maybe it's people kind of like my age and younger that didn't have to experience it, where like the majority of my youth was like the 80s through the 90s where things are pretty okay and pretty stable, and I think that you have those times and you kind of look back, you compare it to how you were like as a kid, so I think people don't think. I don't know. I just feel like we're repeating ourselves historically right now, and it's just like we've been
Yeah,
through this stuff before. Like, why are we doing this again? Um, and
because you never learn from history.
yeah, yeah, it's true. I guess so. I guess, yeah. Did you now? This isn't about the Vietnam War. Isn't really involved in this, correct? Is that
Only peripherally.
yeah?
There's no scenes in Vietnam. Uh, Two of the characters go to Vietnam, but it's not about the war. It's not about civil rights. It's not about feminism. It's just what affects the characters during their lives growing up.
Okay, I see.
This
So
is
it's
going on, and this is how we're reacting to it.
yeah. Um, and you said you kind of started writing this in a writing group that you had joined. Did you bring in the early chapters to kind of get like their feedback and insight and
Oh yeah,
yeah.
we read the whole thing.
Um, do you how do you handle constructive criticism? I find um not everyone loves it, and so when I'm asked to give it, that I kind of I always ask a question before I even like look or read or whatever, and um it's always, do you want me to say what I really think, or just want me to tell you it's great? And because I think it just puts the person in the right mindset, being like, oh, okay, he's gonna have some things to say about it, and not just be like, good job, pat me on the back. And
Yeah.
like, do you welcome that kind of criticism? Are you kind of actively looking for it?
Yes, I am. Um, I'm writing the story. The story was written first person from the perspective of a young girl. Uh, I kept asking the group and other people, does Sally sound like a girl? Does she sound like a real girl? Does she sound like she's feeling this or going through this? And they kept telling me, yeah, she does. And then they, point out a few things in the story to correct. And I needed that feedback from them to keep on writing. I didn't want to write something that everybody would look at and say, "What? What is this?" So, yeah, writers
It,
groups, believe me, really do help
yeah, and
if you're looking to write a story yourself.
that's that is very tough. Like during COVID, I started doing a little bit of writing, and I found it very difficult to write from a female perspective, and especially like a female talking to a female, because you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's not a situation I'm privy to, like, so it becomes like, does this sound right? Does it sound corny? It sounds kind of corny. And like, I had my best friend read it, and he's like, people don't talk that way. I'm like, well, it is still like a movie script, and people don't necessarily talk the way they do in movies. So it can be really challenging to kind of,
Yeah.
because you wanted to make it sound natural, but even if you wrote it how people actually talk, it would be really difficult to read, I think.
Uh, when I started writing it, my first attempt, uh, I wrote the first two chapters and looked at it like, this isn't working. I was just writing it, from an audience perspective. Oh, this happened to that one happened to this, and so on. But the main character, Sally, was such a nothing, such a blob. And all these things were happening to her, but she was so passive. Well, what is she feeling?
Mm-hmm.
I threw away what I'd written, and I thought, I've always been good with dialogue. I'll write it first person, see if that works.
Yeah.
I got the first chapter done. Hey, got the second chapter done as soon as she met her friend Marie. It took off, and all I had to do was just keep up with the two of them. So
I I love that
for
kind
me,
of,
it worked.
yeah, I love that kind of feeling where it's almost, to me, it becomes like there are two people in my head having a conversation. I'm just writing it down, where it's
Yeah,
almost like they kind of start to come
exactly.
alive themselves. So that's super fun. Um, why this story? Why did you gravitate towards this story? Because, like I said, when I was reading your bio, there, that I'm like, oh, it's not at all what I was expecting. you know?
Uh, okay. I tell this to people. Some people believe it, other people don't. I'm a vivid dreamer,
Hmm.
always have been. And sometimes, not all the time, I dream in movies. I'm the audience. I sit and watch all this going on. And yeah, it's quite enjoyable. I wake up in the morning and feel like I ought to be picking popcorn kernels out of my teeth. But over the years, it's been, a story will come to me, a short story will be as quick as a nap.
Hmm.
Uh, some stories just last, days, weeks, a couple months, like Sally's did. Um, it'll just keep going on and on. Uh, and when I say watching movies, yeah, there's been cartoons. Uh, there's credits at the beginning and the end. There's a musical soundtrack. It's all there. So it's usually just writing that down. But with Sally's story, it didn't quite work that way until I let her say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
she told her story, and all the people around her were talking to her, and she was talking back. It made such a difference that, like I said, all I had to do was just sit back and let them do the work. All I did was write it down.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say that I believe you. I am not a vivid dreamer at all, unless I think it's like a life stressor thing. When my ex-wife was pregnant, I had crazy dreams. And in the beginning of COVID, I had very crazy dreams. But one of them I remember specifically. I don't remember what it was entirely about. It involved a boat, but I wasn't in it. And it was a movie that had credits. And so like I get it. Like I've been there. It only happened that one time though. Um
It's fun
but
though, isn't it?
yeah, most dreams are fun. I very, very rarely remember them. Um, but yeah, you and my dreams are usually more surreal, like Salvador Dali style, where just an elephant walks into the room and has a conversation with the sofa, and then then
I've
suddenly
never
you're
had
eating
one.
pizza. Oh, they're just all over the road. Um, they make very little sense, but yeah, I feel like dreams. Like I've spoken to artists that their artwork is inspired by dreams they've had. So I think it's a really interesting way because our brain works in such weird ways when we're not actively
I
using
know
it.
there's other writers that have gotten their stories from dream. Mary Shelley got Frankenstein from a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Louis Stevenson got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from the dream. Contemporary science fiction writers like oh, Harrington, Longyear, Spinrad, they've all said, "Oh, we got this story from a dream." So it's
And I've definitely woken up
I
and
don't
been like, "Oh, that was a cool idea. I should write that
yeah.
down." And then like 3 hours later, you're like, "What the hell was it that I was going to write down? I can't remember now." Do you keep like a journal next to your bed so you can like make those notes?
No, because actually I remember these dreams
Oh, really?
all the way back to the first movie back when I was 15 years old. I remember all of them.
Oh, that's
Like I
that's
said,
amazing.
it's not all the time. It's
Yeah,
just every now and then. But those I remember.
yeah. And what a great, I don't want to say scam, but someone walks in and finds you sleeping. You can just be like, "I wasn't sleeping, I was working. I'm working on a new story." Um,
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah. Do you already have an idea for your next book or
Yes, I do. Actually, I'm working on two stories right now, so we'll see which one comes up first.
yeah, are they of similar type, or is it a complete departure from this book?
Similar, I'd say. Yes.
Yeah. Do you like I feel like I mean again from what I've seen, it sounds like you have an interesting life. Did you ever thought about or wanted to write kind of like a memoir or like an actual autobiography?
Uh, my wife and some friends have said, write about the Navy. Uh, I know the statute of limitations of going on a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
it would be hard to do that and keep it clean enough to publish.
Yeah. And I mean some of it too is
Yeah.
like is especially I suppose it's like I've been kind of like I hit 50 this year and been thinking about like why am I the way I am, like what made me the way I am, and my kids are older now, and it's like do I and part of it was like I'm like, oh well, they have this ability to go and listen to 430 some odd episodes of this show, 700 episodes that we've recorded total, and they can hear stories of me like talking to other people and whatever. But I'm kind of like, should I, not necessarily a published thing, but like, do you I guess I'm kind of like what do I leave behind is like kind of I'm not taking 50 well.
Yeah. Well,
So it's just it becomes like wow,
wait till you hit my age.
I hope to. Um and
My old man, he made it to 96. My mother made it to 88. So I
yeah,
probably
see
still got a few, you know.
I think that's the thing that's freaking me out is like my father passed away in his early 60s. My
Mm,
mother made it to her 70s. But like my grandmother made it into like she was 101 or just about 101. So it's like hoping for grandma's genes, but it's yeah, it's just it was it wasn't a wake up call, but it was just like this birthday was just kind of like the first one that made me like stop and like think and like do what do I want to leave behind?
yeah.
Yeah, it was really so it is that kind of like, well, do I want to write about everything? Do you only want to write, your greatest hits? Do you want to like write about your greatest misses? And it's like, ugh, God, like I don't even know. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
One thing I've found over the years, uh, the temptations I regret the most are the ones I didn't give into.
Yep. Yeah, I suppose. And I mean that is very true. And I've been very lucky in my life where I was never really afraid to take kind of those crazy shots. So, I have a very strange job that most people don't understand, but it's working out well for me, and it's so like I don't. Yeah, I feel like it's more interpersonal like regrets than the big like. I should have tried to
Yeah.
be a baseball player or whatever because I would have been like, I'm gonna try it. Let's see what happens. Um, but I mean, I think that's kind of the the way. I mean, because your book in and of itself looks at someone over the course of, would you say, 30 years?
Yes.
So I mean,
Well, 25 from age 5 to age 30.
okay. So I mean, even that has to kind of like reflect somewhat on her. You said it had a happy ending, which is always great, but
Yes.
it's kind of like I think the exciting part is like where you're headed, but I think looking at specifically to me, I found the thing that most interests me was what what in my early childhood got me interested in the things I'm interested in now. And like I can kind of go back and go, oh, like I get this. It makes sense now. Were you like an avid reader as a kid? Like how
Oh,
did
yeah. Uh, my mother started all of her kids reading at age 3.
wow, that's early.
By the time we got to kindergarten, we all had library cards.
Yeah.
So, uh, summer times and on the hot days, I would be in the library in air conditioning, having a good time there. And thankfully, my daughter is the same way. Uh, I was told by a librarian years ago, if you've got a book, you've got a friend. And I've tried to instill that in my daughter as well. Uh, my wife and I met in a library.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
reading has been a big influence in my life.
Yeah, it's funny. Like the library was a huge influence in my childhood. Not for reading. Like I mentioned, being dyslexic, I'm not a big reader, but I used to take out books, and every book was how to draw 50, and then every book was something different. It'd be 50 dinosaurs, 50 buildings, 50 vehicles, 50 cartoon characters. And like I was obsessed. Like I would go and
Yeah,
take those out and try to draw step by step through like the whole, they would do like make a circle, make another circle here, da 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 da.
yeah.
And weirdly I would just skip to the end and try to copy the final drawing. I don't know what that says about me. But yeah, that's yeah, it was a huge, huge part of my childhood. was going to the library because we were it was at the end of my block. So I mean, early on, my parents would be
Yeah.
like, "Yep, just come back when the street lights are on," that kind of thing, and
Yep.
off you'd go. So
The library I went to was a block and a half away
yep. Was it in Baltimore? Is that's where you grew up?
in Baltimore. It was
Yeah,
the Enoch Pratt branch number 13.
yeah. Um, is I'm trying to. I went to public schools. I'm not that smart, but Baltimore is that's a heavy military naval. Like, is that how you ended up in the Navy?
Uh, Steel mills and things like that. There was an army presence there. It was Fort Halliburton.
Okay.
Mm, it's a port city, but we really didn't have much in the way of a Navy presence.
So, what got you geared towards the Navy?
Mm, at the time, it sounded romantic. I'll join the Navy. I'll see the world. That's what they have on the recruiting posters.
Yeah.
What I saw for 4 years was the inside of an engine room.
My nephew joined the Marines and ended up stationed on an aircraft carrier, and he was I don't know what his specific job was, but he was like prepping the um the survival gear for pilots. So like making sure their
Oh, okay.
chutes were repaired and their vests and whatnot. And so like all his friends are like, "Wow, you joined the Marines to learn to sew." And it's just like it, it it's a job that needs to be done and a really important job. But it's like it's not what you think of when you see the recruiting post. Like you want to like
Yeah.
jump out of the rope out of the helicopter into whatever. And it's like then you're stuck in the middle of a aircraft carrier sewing parachutes. Um, do you do you gravitate towards stories of the military? Like you said, you don't know how
No,
you could write, but that's not really your interest.
no.
No.
I've
Um.
kept up with my friends from the Navy.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, we've got friendships that are over 50 years old now.
Sure.
So uh, we keep close contact. When you live this close to somebody on board a ship,
Yeah.
you either love people or you hate them. And I've been lucky.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that I've loved.
Yeah. I got to tour an old submarine. Um. I believe it's called the Albacore, and it's in New Hampshire. And just the whole time, me and my friend are like, how on earth did people? I mean, there'd be bunks that they're just a giant pipe that runs through the bunk, and like, if you're sleeping in it, you'd have to like hug the pipe in order to stay in the
Yeah.
bunk. It's just some of the most insane design choices, and it's a lot of respect because I don't definitely not something for me. Um,
It feels like living in a monkey cage every now and then.
oh, I bet, sure. And that was one of the other things that I think we were discussing, not to be too crude, but I'm like you're locked in this thing and the showering is limited and I'm like it's submerged. It
Yeah.
must be awful in here. So, um but back to your writing. So you said you have a couple other stories that you're
Sure.
working on. Are these similar kind of like coming of age growing up stories? Is that kind of the genre that interests you or
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Not much that it interests me, but they were the best ones that I've come up with so far. Um, Short stories, I've done different genres and submitted a few of them, but they didn't quite take off.
Yeah.
Sally's story, on the other hand, was different because I think it was something that people could relate to a bit better. Rather than a mystery or science fiction or whatever. oh, this happens to a person that I can identify with. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny.
the other
I
two stories that I'm working on are similar.
it's like growing up. I remember some of those like coming of age stories that like uh, I watched movies of that as I got to an adult and had kids. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to show my kids this movie and this because they meant so much to me like growing up.
Yeah,
And most of them hold like kind of carry over but there's a few that they're like, what? I don't understand what's going on here. And you're like, oh, because it was like the 90s. And, um, it's just, it's certain things are so different that they're just like, this doesn't make sense. But I mean, Stand By Me to this day is like, I think one of the greatest kind of coming of age stories there is.
yeah.
So in this, in your writing group, you mentioned someone else who just put out a book or recently put out.
Yep. Connie Matsumoto. Her book came out a few years ago. Um,
So now is there like friendly rivalry competition, kind of like
no, not really. Connie left the group after, well, when COVID started, we all broke up for a little while.
yeah,
Uh, Competition, I think it's mostly, that we support each other. You know, you know, we'll bring in what we're writing and read, and there's, discussion back and forth. Uh, when one of us has a success, like Connie, like me, uh, everybody says, "Oh, this feels like all of us have done that."
oh
The
yeah, I
cover
could see that.
painting,
Yeah,
um, the cover painting on the book was done by one of our member who is also an artist and teaches art. Uh, and it's like, yeah, please do this for me. Could you give me a blog review on your blog? And we work together.
yeah,
So one success for one person is for all. So
those are the best kind of groups, and I feel like they're generally speaking fairly uncommon. Um,
yeah,
and it's one of the things that I feel very lucky, but also part of why I love living in Plymouth. Plymouth is has several groups that are very like that. That they have that kind of like rising tide floats all boats mentality of
yeah,
you know I'm saying yes to what you're going to ask me before you even get to explaining what it is. I'm just going to say yes because I want to help, and so I love that, and that's rare. So I think that's um, kind of kind of good advice for people. Don't try not to like I very much enjoy friendly competition and you know kind of talking smack against your friends, but it's all in good
yeah.
fun. But yeah, I mean, kind of you got to hold the door for the guy behind you who's coming up, and yeah. Do you
Because one day
have?
you'll need some help too.
Of course, yeah, yeah. I need help frequently. um, do you have advice for now that you've kind of been through the process of getting your book out for someone who's trying to go through that like definitely don't do this.
Um, Join a writers group. That's the biggest thing of all. If you've got that kind of feedback, that really helps you to do a story. Um, if you get picked for to have your book published, and one thing, take the editing advice. If they say you should trim this out, if you should make that smaller, your writers groups already helped you do that. So a little extra doesn't hurt. Uh, I was It was recommended to me that I um, hire a publicist to, you know, get the book out there. She's actually brought me to you,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, I've found that's a big help. Besides being on your show, um, there will be, you know, the markets have opened up. It's not just something on Amazon. The book is available through Walmart, through Books A Million, through uh, Barnes and Noble, and somehow she's gotten the book listed on bookstores around the world. Poland, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, England, Australia, uh, Korea. It's like, is this book is this book really going to sell in all these markets? Who knows? Why not put it out there? If it sells, it sells. If it, uh, it'd be funny as hell to wake up one morning and see best-selling worldwide. Yeah, right. I'll be on New York Times bestseller list. Yeah, sure, but it'd be fun if
But
it
yeah,
ever
and it's
happened.
like you just you never know where that kind of spark is going to come from. We had
Right.
um one episode go kind of viral. It had been up for about a year, and within like a month and a half, it had gotten like 25,000 downloads after being up for a year. And to the point where I'm
Right.
texting my editor, I'm like, did this girl just get cast in a Marvel movie? Did she get arrested? Like, why is suddenly this actress episode going nuts? And it was she was in a very controversial movie that really didn't get released anywhere except it got released in the Philippines a year after we had interviewed her. And so suddenly, like, she became a big deal, and most of those downloads were from overseas. So it's just like, wow, that's really weird that we were a hot podcast for like a month and a half in the Philippines. I think it's the Philippines. But yeah, and then I mean, sometimes you learn geography by looking at where you've been downloaded. You're like, oh, that's
Right.
where the Ivory Coast is. I didn't know that, but it's super fun, and I wish you the best of luck. Are you going to do like book signings and that sort of thing? Or do they have that scheduled for you?
Hopefully, yes.
Nice.
Um, like I said, my publicist and the publisher both are hoping to set up, personal appearances and readings and stuff. So
Very cool.
it'll be fun. It'll
Um,
be it maybe not fun, but it'll be different. It'll keep the mind
keep the mind
going.
busy, yeah. And I don't
Yes.
know. I find travel and meeting people generally fun. Not always. There's exceptions to every rule, but kind of just getting out of my comfort zone and doing something different is
Right.
definitely something I enjoy. Uh, I know you mentioned Walmart and Barnes and Noble, but where can people go to get the book? Follow you? You said you weren't much into social media. Are you on the socials at all?
I do have a website,
Okay.
um, and people can contact me through that. Again, my publicist set that up for me. I can give you the address.
Yeah, yeah. Please.
Okay. www.authorartyong, authorartyoung.com.
Nice.
Um, yeah, if you're interested in the book, yeah, um, drop me a line. And here it is right here. Isn't this lovely?
Well, it's an
It's
audio
called
podcast. They can't
Downeyoshun.
see
It's by this guy named Art Young.
it. Yeah.
So,
It's got to be when having something finally completed and out in the world, it's just such kind of a cool experience.
yes,
Um, that you can hand people and be like, I have brought this in from nothing. Here you go. And yes,
it's not just something I've told a friend or something like that. This is going out.
yeah, it's in like it happens to me a lot. Someone will find out I have a podcast and they'll be like, "Oh, what's it about?" I'll be like, "Oh, we interview creative people, and we're about episode 430 ish," and that's when they're like, "Oh, so it's not like." you've had, because a lot of times you meet people like, I have a podcast, we have 9 episodes or whatever, and I'm like, no, I've been doing it a long time. Um, but it's always fun. I get to talk to some really cool people and meet new authors. So we wish you the best of luck, and
Thank you very much.
it's available right now, right? It's already been released
Comes available in April.
in April.
Right now, you can pre-order it. Uh, you can Google it,
Yeah,
and there'll
because
be a
it
list
depends
of
on
stories
when
that
this goes up. This is kind of like in a queue of episodes, so it may actually be up right now, depending on when this goes up. So, listeners can Google uh, Downeyoshun, or Arthur Young, author, and find it that way. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
No problem. And listeners, we'll find you guys back here next Monday. And I honestly don't know who I have lined up next. Yeah, no idea. So, but we'll see you guys again next week. And good to talk to you, sir.
Good to talk to you.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.